What's up, everyone? This is Nintendo25, and you are watching the old-ass retro gamer. And if you ask me, he's not that old. He's pretty young, if you know what I mean.
What is up, everybody? Chris, the old-ass retro gamer, back for the Sony PlayStation Video Game Collection 2023 video part 4 of 5. Yeah. What's up, Game Room? Glad to see you. Yeah. Today is yet another shelf of my gigantic PlayStation, or OG PlayStation PS1 collection. Lots of games to talk about today. And then next week will be the final episode before we move on to another console. Trying to figure out which one that'll be. Nintendo 64, I guess? Yeah, I think so. Creepy intro. That was Nintendo. He's always joking around, but he's awesome. So yeah, let's get right into it, shall we? There's really no preamble other than why do I do these streams? See, I managed to work it in there again. 4 reasons. Good content for the channel. Get to talk to all the awesome people that hang out in the chat. It's fun, and it's good to have a visual record of everything that I have in my collection so that in case something bad happens, I'm covered. PCFX should be the next console. Don't have that. Sorry. So the last game I talked about last Thursday was Metal Gear Solid, the original. Loved it. Absolutely love it. There was also Metal Gear Solid VR missions. So, not for bragging. Yes, not for bragging. I had this back in the day also. I was super excited about it. It is essentially like test missions or like practice missions that just steadily ramp up in difficulty. You're going up against like virtual bad guys and stuff. The walls all look like you're in Tron land and stuff like that. It's really, really fun. It doesn't really affect much of anything. And you do get to play as the ninja, the one that changes your, or the one that reads your, is it the one that reads your memory card in the actual game? I think it is. Been a while since I played it. I haven't played this since back in the 90s when it first came out. I actually got a copy of this off of someone on Facebook, and they just sent me the disc as like an add-on as a thank you for, buying whatever it was I was buying from them. I don't remember what it was. And I ended up just getting the case and the artwork, and I completed it myself. Tronland, that's right. The Tron attraction at Disney World or Disneyland or whatever is opening up, I think, in April. So I am excited. Next up, we have licensed game. We have Mission Impossible. It is using artwork from, or like a moment from the original movie with Tom Cruise, but this is not based on the movie, which I think confused a lot of people. This originally, I do believe, came out on the Nintendo 64, and I rented it on the Nintendo 64. Excuse me. And I didn't quite like it. I thought it was kind of clunky and all that, and it was just not that fun. Putting on the masks was kind of cool because you'd like see your character's face like mold or morph into whatever face you are imitating, usually like a soldier or something. But it also eventually, like I think a year later, came out on the PS1, and this is definitely the better version. The graphics are clearer, and the controls are better. Everything about it was improved. I think the N64 version was rushed out because I think it was going to be like a console exclusive, at least for like a timed console exclusive. And during the time when, between that came out and this came out, the company had time to just iron out all the bugs and made it a better game. But it's like an espionage, Metal Gear Solid style game. You have to sneak around. Sometimes you just do straight out firefights. It's usually trying to sneak into installations, get something, get back out without getting seen. It is not the greatest, but it is entertaining. I mean, it does feel like Mission Impossible, although you don't really have a team. It's usually just, Ethan Hunt, the lead guy, going in and doing everything. So outside of that, I mean, you want to play like a real Mission Impossible game, well, the one that includes the team, that's like the Nintendo, the NES version. What's up, Cree JB? Red light, green light. Yep, the gum. I had the original soundtrack, the music by Danny Elfman, on vinyl, and the vinyl was called the Red Light, Green Light vinyl. It was like split in half. One half was green, one half of it was red, which was kind of cool. And what's up, Retro Coop? How's it going? Hope y'all relaxing. Ooh, yes. This one's funny. I think the Q Dogs just talked about this in something. I also saw mention of this in another video. I think I had fallen asleep watching YouTube. When I woke up, someone was talking about this. But we have Mobile Light Force, which I do believe is Castle of Shikigami. And when it got ported over to the US, I don't think that, XS Games thought that Castle of Shikigami would sell games like the title. So they changed it to Mobile Light Force and put the frickin' Charlie's Angels on the cover. I mean, if you really look at it, that's frickin' Lucy Liu, over here. But I remember seeing this at Best Buy and going like, no, I don't think so. Because then you look at this cover and then you look at the back and it's a vertically scrolling like bullet hell style shooter. It doesn't make any sense why that artwork is the way it is. And there's like flying robots and stuff on the back. So I never bought it back in the day. But once I learned what it was and I played, I think, Castle Shikigami 3 on the Wii, and I went back into the catalog and got the second one for the PlayStation 2 twice. You'll see it when I get to that console. I ended up finding this, I do believe, at that overpriced store that's just southwest of me. What is it called? Play It Retro. When I went with Captain Algebra, I picked this up. And it's okay. It's a decent vertically scrolling shmup. It's not as good as some of the later games because I really did enjoy 2 and 3. But I just, the snafu with the titles is just silly to me. It is so dumb. Like marketing sometimes is just stupid. Ooh, I gotta take a drink before I talk about this one. So, you know me. We got that thing right there. We got that thing right there. We had the big cardboard thing that used to be behind me where this thing is now. You guys know I love my Mortal Kombat. Absolutely had to have this. Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero. I was super excited for this game when it first came out. I was like over the moon. I was like, oh my God, we're finally getting some like side stories. This is going to be like the first game in a series that focuses on the characters individually. We'll get more backstory on them. Maybe some new characters will get mixed into the, the mythos of the whole Mortal Kombat, series. It'll be awesome. And while I do enjoy aspects of this game, the way that it was designed control-wise is crap. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up that uses the same mechanics as the one-on-one fighting game. So your character is always facing, like your character, if you're facing right and you jump over a character you're fighting, you're still facing right. You have to hit a button to make your character spin around, and it's very unintuitive. I think you have to hit up to jump, like in Mortal Kombat, like in the original games, and instead of like a button. And the face buttons are all set up just like the Mortal Kombat game, where you got a high punch, a low kick, and a high kick, and all that kind of crap, and a block. And it's just, it didn't work. They should have reworked the controls, but I think they were afraid that they'd lose their fan base if they didn't somehow, which doesn't make sense. If it's not a one-on-one fighting game, change the control scheme. It's as simple as that. The graphics do look great. It's still digitized actors and all that, and it has some of the cheesiest live-action cutscenes in a video game ever. But this is where they introduced Quan Chi, played by Richard frickin' DeVizio, who played Kano in the original game, well, all three originally, and also Baraka. And he is just like chewing the frickin' scenery in this game. Like every chance he gets, it is funny as hell to watch. But like I said, you get more backstory on the Lin Kuei and all that kind of stuff. And the Shirai Ryu, I don't know, is it the Shirai Ryu or is it just the it's just the Lin Kuei? Scorpion does pop up at one point. Yeah. But it's really awesome for that, for advancing the mythology. It's in the title. Control-wise, not so much. Yeah, there's like a lot of like precision platforming you need to do, and the platforming in that, like the controls just kill it. But didn't stop me from playing it as much as I possibly could because, you know, it's a Mortal Kombat. I gotta have my MK. Which brings us to Mortal Kombat Special Forces. So all the hate that gets heaped on Sub-Zero, I think this is the game that deserves it. This is the worst Mortal Kombat game. Not like we're talking like a port to another console of one of the arcade games or anything like that. There are, I do believe. Yeah, there are fatalities in this. It doesn't say finish him or anything like that, but yeah, there's part like when you kill a boss, you can do a fatality on him. This is the worst original Mortal Kombat game ever. It used to be Mortal Kombat 4 for me until I played this. This is just broken in every way possible. Yeah, it's cool that we got a game that features, you know, Jax in the lead position, you know, the lead role. And it's really cool because, like I said, the more I can learn about the characters and all that, since I love the story and the characters that have been created for these games, the better. You know, you get to know the character a little bit more. You know, new characters are introduced and all that kind of stuff. No, but so what do they do with this? Instead of making it a beat 'em up like Sub-Zero, they made it a 3D beat 'em up that's kind of like top down, kind of looks like Legend of Zelda-y, and it controls like shit. And the graphics are absolutely piss poor, dark, hard to see what the hell you're doing. The controls are what basically kills this game. Like you have some of Jax's moves from the fighting games, like you can see right here. You got like his ground pound. So it sends those like shockwaves out. But the game itself is just broken in every single way. Like, this is one of those games that was like rushed out to meet some sort of a deadline. Like, we need to have another Mortal Kombat game out like every year. Get this done. And this is what we ended up with. It is god awful. This is the absolute worst original Mortal Kombat game ever made. It is terrible. Terrible. And I like Jax as a character, so I think they really did him dirty with that. I do believe it was outsourced. I don't think this was made in-house. Yeah, it is such shit. Yeah, a waste of a rental. Yeah, it doesn't really feel like Mortal Kombat. That's, I think, the biggest problem with it is, like, you got Jax in it, you've got him doing some of the moves from the games, but it didn't feel like Mortal Kombat at all. It didn't feel like it even belonged in the franchise. It's just like some generic game that they had lying around, and they just threw Jax's character in it for no reason. It's dumb. It's crap. But then we also have Mortal Kombat Trilogy. This is the exclusive PlayStation edition because I think this has characters that aren't in the Saturn or the Nintendo 64 version, if I remember correctly. There are a ton of characters. You can see them all right there on that roster page. So what this is it's the Mortal Kombat 3 engine. It has all the characters that were available in the original Mortal Kombat 3, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, and a bunch of new characters like the bosses. You can play as Shao Kahn, you can play as Kintaro, you can play as Goro, Motaro. I'm trying to see who else. They added in Johnny Cage. They added Johnny Cage back in. You've got Noob Saibot. it's kind of hard to see because the picture is so small, but there's, yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, Ermac, Rain. Yeah. So, and then all these new characters that they added in, they had to like come up with ways to let them use the run button because like a lot of these characters were from, like Johnny Cage was not in Mortal Kombat 3 or Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. So they basically brought in another actor to play him because Daniel Pesina got fired. That's why his character wasn't in the third game. What's it called? So they brought in some new guy, and they like it's like this game kind of bugs me because it feels like they just like rushed to add all this extra content in there when it really didn't need to have it in there. I mean, were we really asking for this? And since I'm not the biggest fan of Mortal Kombat 3 or Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, I thought it was kind of like too little too late. Like you should have just done this with the original Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 in the arcade instead of this, because when you have this on a disc now, you have a lot of loading time problems, especially when it came to doing fatalities and stuff, because just like the Mortal Kombat 2 version of the game that was released in the UK, it is like the load times kill that game, and the load times kind of kill this too. Surprisingly, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on the Saturn did not suffer a lot of that problem. It was just when you did a fatality, you get like a pause, and then it would happen. But here, there's a lot of load time issues. So yeah, it's cool to have all this extra content, but I'm not a big fan of Mortal. Burp. Excuse me. I'm not a big fan of Mortal Kombat 3 in general, so that doesn't like make my nipples hard or anything. Spawn on PS1 just as bad. Special Forces. Yeah, went to my local Best Buy in the gaming section. It's still pathetic. Yeah, I went there today actually. I picked up a bunch of 4Ks. Their 4K section, like they're keeping up with the new releases at the Best Buy, but I went into the video game section to see if they had anything, and there's like 5 PS5 games on the shelves. There's a bunch of like used Xbox One and Series X games. They have more Switch games on the shelves, but it's like 5 copies of the same game taking up a shelf, just to fill out the space. I don't get it. Like everything's behind the counter now. You have to ask if they have it. It's stupid. I just get my stuff off of Amazon because they discount it there faster anyway. But welcome, Tiger Shot. You're disappointed by finding that Mortal Kombat trilogy just port the 3 games individually. Yeah, that would have been cool to have like ports of all 3. But like I said, the Mortal Kombat 2 port that I think the UK got was considered like one of the worst things ever. So I can understand why they didn't do that. But eventually came out. The Arcade Perfect ports came out on the PlayStation 2. So there's that. What's up, Waves of Games, PETA? Whacking the Sub-Zero, yeah. It had everything, yeah. Yeah, it came a bit too late. Like Mortal Kombat 4 was already in the arcade. So we've already been introduced to like 3D Mortal Kombat, which I wasn't really a big fan of. But like that just felt like a cash grab kind of thing. Like, oh, we did like Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Come and get it. And we all ate it up, but whatever. Here I have MTV Music Generator. What was it? I had this in the original double case. I need to go and get a double width case so I can put this back in its original container, think of the jewel case that it came in. But when I bought this off of eBay, it came in this. So don't judge. That's why it's kind of bulging, because the manual for this game is super freaking thick. And that's why I needed the double wide. So what is MTV Music Generator? I played this game I wouldn't even call it a game. I played this for about a year straight. It's essentially like create your own music tracks kind of thing. Like it's like Guitar Freaks or, Guitar Hero or Rock Band without the instruments. The game is filled with nothing but samples from all these different genres. It gives you a field to insert all these samples into. And you have I think there was... Does it even say on here what the types were? Yeah, it says there's 1,500 riffs and 3,000 instrumental sounds. The genres were there was hip hop, there was techno, there was rock. I want to say ska. It was 6 genres you can pull samples from, and you can make your own songs. And I did just that. The only problem was, each track that you would make would take up an entire memory card. And I am not kidding. An entire memory card. I had a pack of 20 memory cards specifically for this game, because I created essentially an entire album's worth of songs. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything like that, but they ended up being pretty cool, I thought. My friends even were asking, like back then I had a mini disc recorder and a player, and I had friends giving me mini discs so I could make like the album version of it so they can listen to it at home. I do actually have 2 of the tracks on my hard drive because I ended up down the line, I got the PC version. And when I've mentioned it before on the channel, I used to be a DJ, an online DJ on like some online radio station. And I told them, I told the people that were running, I'm like, I have MTV Music Generator. I can create like songs that are like intros for all the other DJs and stuff. And they actually asked me to do that. And I created like a theme song for the channel. Let me pull the songs off of my hard drive real quick, and I'll play you a little bit. I went by DJ Schwanzy. Let me see. Where is it? I don't know if it's under. No, it's just under Schwanzy, I think. Schwanzy, where is you? Oh, shit. Let me just do a search for the name of the song. Okay, so where is that track? Get info. That is under the Mighty Schwanzy. That was what the album title was, or my name, my artist name. Let's see. There we go, Mighty Schwanzy. I will upload them here so you all can hear it. Sorry, I'm taking too long. Add music. Yes. One second, everybody. I just think this is funny, especially when you find out what one of the songs I did was. There they are. Open. Okay, they're uploading. All right, so like I said, I made an entire album's worth of songs with this damn program. I wanted like 20 songs, and one of them I did about Lara Croft from Tomb Raider. And I bought a specific memory card that the top half of it was Lara Croft's body, boobs and everything. That was just for that song. I even bought like those multiple. There was like memory cards that had like buttons on them, and it had like multiple memory cards worth of memory in it. And you just had to hit a button to switch to the next like layer of memory. It couldn't use those. That the game would like, you would save on the first layer. The moment you would try to save us another song on the second like layer of memory, it would like erase the entire memory card. So I ended up using that for regular games and individual memory cards for the songs, because it would eat up every bit of memory, especially if you sampled something. That was one of the things that this let you do, was there was like a sample option in here where you would pull the disc out of the PlayStation, put a music disc in, and you could record a small sample of something to insert into your song. And I did that a lot. And if you did that, it basically meant there was absolutely no memory to spare on those memory cards when you were done to put anything else on. I absolutely loved it. Let me go back to the chat here. I haven't seen it in a bit. Let me see. I never did any singing or anything like that. I will not. No. Hell no. Hell no. Okay, let me get rid of my extra memory. Go get that out of there. Okay, so you guys ready for this? So I did the Lara Croft song, Brand. Tell me if you can hear it, because I can't. Yeah, I can kind of hear it. You hear the boo? That was one of the samples I took. Spent so much time with Music Generator and never made anything good. Like I said, I made about 20 different songs. I made one about the Fifth Element. I made one about the X-Files. record them and publish. You heard the PS1 RZA? Yeah, sweet. Yeah. Peter going to Southeast Game Exchange? I am. Oh. Swansea. Yep. MoGameCon this year. Family reunion in Utah. Yeah. Coworker. I'm definitely going to Midwest Gaming Classic, and I'll probably go to MoGameCon again. That Tomb Raider memory card that I had, that thing I think is worth a lot of money now. So basically everything I did was like techno in the game. Because there was so many samples for it, I made pretty much all techno. I would insert other genre stuff into each song, but I mostly mess around with the techno samples. Even that little tone that you hear, that's a sample from the game. And this one had the most build up to it, but it's like 6 minutes long. And I have samples of Laura saying stuff later on in the song. But there were sequels to this made, both of them for the PlayStation 2. I think Part 3 also came out for the Xbox. The idea behind the second one was that it came with I think you had to buy it separately. There was a cable that you could buy and attach to your PlayStation 2 to plug into like a Discman. And then you could sample directly from the Discman. It didn't work at all. I bought that add-on. I could never get the PlayStation 2 one to work as well as I got the original version 2. And I ended up buying the third one just because it was there, but I never used it because the second one was such a miserable experience compared to this. So I absolutely played, like I said, I played this. I would bring like the tracks over to friends' houses and they play them. I even made the little music. You got the ability to make music videos. You can kind of see it. Like with this here, for each song. And I did it for the first couple, and then after that I gave up on it. But, yeah. Xbox version came with a microphone. Yeah, I didn't even bother with it. I have it, but I've never actually used it because Part 2 just sucked so bad compared to this. And the cool thing is, I've talked about it before. There was another show that I used to do on YouTube called Toasty with my friend Josh. And it was like a geek talk show where me and Josh would be sitting on the couches just talking about like the current topics. Every once in a while we had guests, and one of them was Taryn Manning, who played Pennsatucky on Orange is the New Black. She was also in that Britney Spears movie Crossroads. She was one of the 3 friends in that. She's been in a ton of movies. She met Josh because Josh used to be a bartender, and she was filming some movie in Chicago. Came into his bar one night and at the bar, and he talked her up and ended up becoming good friends. And he was like, "Hey, while you're in Chicago, you want to be on this talk show thing me and my friend do?" So she actually came to my apartment, and we did we broke it up into 2 episodes talking to her. And the thing was, she was talking about how she's a musical artist on the side, and how like being in Crossroads with Britney Spears, like what was it, her and Zoe Saldana and Britney Spears, they all were like musical people, and it made her want to make an album of her own. And her brother used Music Generator for all the songs on her original album, her first album. So when she mentioned that, I was like, I had like 20 songs that I made for that thing. I had like an album's worth of like instrumental stuff that I had done. And that was what made me and her get along, like right away. She was like, "Oh, you're cool." So that was pretty rad. Well, there was that one, and then there's this other one that I did that is based off of Moonraker, the James Bond movie. And I took a sample from it. Sorry, I hit the wrong button on my keyboard and it backed me up. The little that's the Moonraker. Yeah, I saw that they're re-releasing it in 4K. There was a Steelbook that came out a while back that had a pretty cool design on it. It was a bunch of hands that were making that tunnel we had to walk through to get to the gravity drive. This was the first thing I ever did on MTV Music Video. Anyway, I need to move on and talk about other things. So I'll leave the music playing for a couple more minutes and then we're done. All right, so next up we have The Mummy, based on the Brendan Fraser flick, Hells to the Yes. This is by Konami, and this is I got a game due when I was visiting my brother in LA like years ago. It's actually not that bad. It's a third-person action beat-em-up where you're playing as Rick, Brendan Fraser's character, and it goes through all the events of the movie. And it's actually, like I said, Konami had something to do with this, and it is not half bad. What is it called? Rebellion worked on it, and I think they're the same people that did, was it The Warriors? I think. But yeah, this was actually way better than it had any right to be. It's actually kind of cool. Next up, another one that I got at, I think, at Game Dude. I think I took the Oh yeah, so this is N2O, or nitrous oxide. And this is like playing a super psychedelic version of Wipeout. I mean, just look at that. Your brains will melt out through your ear holes. It is absolutely nuts, but it's actually pretty fun and kind of cool. I mean, the graphics are absolutely fantastic, and it has a really cool licensed soundtrack by the Crystal Method. There's music fueled by the Crystal Method. So if you like electronic music from the 90s, this is the game for you. And it's actually pretty fun. I'd say this is definitely a diamond in the rough. I was thinking about putting this in another diamond in the rough video that I was going to do for the PlayStation. You can see, you can hear the guitar loop that I threw in there. That was like one of the rock samples that they had. Playing the music and not crashing like it did that one time. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, the first Mummy movie, I really like the second one too, until PlayStation 1 Scorpion King shows up at the end and, and then it gets stupid. But yeah, I love the Mummy films, the first two at least. The third one, I don't speak of that in this house. No. If Rachel Weisz ain't in it, I ain't watching it. Now, next up, we have Nanotech Warrior, which essentially you can put right alongside Nitrous Oxide, and you can have like a double feature going on with these two, because they are essentially the same style of game. It's like a racing game, kind of like Wipeout. That's super psychedelic, and you see the graphics here too look very comparable to Nitrous Oxide, which is pretty cool. So, do I really need to talk about this? It's almost the exact same game. Get your glow sticks. Nightmare Creatures. I never played this one back in the day or its sequel. I remember a couple of my friends had this, and they were like, yeah, it's okay. It's a 3D beat 'em up, but it's horror themed. You play as this dude who's just going around killing all kinds of crazy monsters and stuff. I never actually played it. Oh, I didn't actually play it back then. I played this when I got this copy of it to see if it worked. And it was pretty fun, if not dated. But maybe because I don't have nostalgic memories for it, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't think I need to play that anytime soon. I can wait. Leave it on the old backlog. So I do have the second one for the Dreamcast. You kind of need that if you're going to get a complete Dreamcast set like I do. Or like I have. So I'll probably play through this before I play through that, because I don't think the stories link up or anything like that. I just think they're just like more of the same. Yeah, Rachel's the reason. Hell yeah. Picked this one up. I remember at Half Price Books, and I was just kind of like, where the hell did this come from? I don't even remember this back in the day. It's called Ninja Shadow of Darkness. So it's by Core, which means right away it's going to be clunky as hell. And it's a 3D, like a third-person action beat 'em up where you're playing as a ninja. You've got like ninjutsu magic powers and stuff. But it looks kind of cool. It plays okay, but like the graphics are kind of, I don't know. murky, I guess, and the controls aren't the greatest. So I didn't really put a whole lot of time into it, but it does say from the creators of Tomb Raider, but doesn't quite have the polish that Tomb Raider had. So it's good. It could have been better. This I love. This I picked up at Midwest Gaming. Did I pick this up? No, not Midwest Gaming Classic. I got this at that Play It Retro joint, I think. But whatever. It is a sequel to one of my favorite Super Nintendo games, and that is Norse by Northwest, The Return of the Lost Vikings. So this is Lost Vikings 2. On the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, this is called Lost Vikings 2 Norse by Northwest. But for some reason, the PlayStation and I think the Saturn version the name got reversed, which is strange to me. But it is more of the same. It's the platform puzzle thing from the first game where you have the 3 different Vikings. Each of them do specific things, and you need to use them in combination in order to solve all these environmental puzzles. And it's still pretty fun. It's just this one has like CD quality music. The graphics are a lot better. The play control is a lot better. There's more stages, obviously, because now you have CD storage. So it's cool. I do think I like the first one more because that one to me is just a little bit more charming. Ninja Gaiden, yep. And then this long-going series, we got Nuclear Strike. I think this was this the first one that was on the PlayStation? I think this was. Or no, maybe it was the other one. Yeah, I think maybe this is the follow. Does it say on the back? Because usually they say like the follow-up to... Yeah, this is. It says it right on the front. The sequel to Soviet Strike. They always put that on the cover of these games so you know what order they go in. It is so stupid. So if you played Desert Strike, Jungle Strike, Urban Strike, you've played Nuclear Strike. It's that, isometric view shooter where you're usually in a helicopter taking out targets and stuff. But this time, it's all CD, so there's lots of really bad live-action cutscenes. And now you have crazy explosions and better graphics because it's all polygons now instead of sprites. And CD quality music, so it's more of the same, just amped up. So if you like those games, yeah. That Hitch Horse from North by Northwest, I never saw that. I've never actually gotten that far in there. Here's another Psygnosis game that I had to add to the collection because trying to get all the Psygnosis console games. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to follow through on that now, but we'll see how things work out. That's ODT, which means Or Die Trying. And this is a third-person action adventure. It's kind of like half shooter, half beat 'em up, and it's okay. It's like that was the thing about Psygnosis was like their games were like they were either really good or like really, really, really mediocre. And this is to me is one of the mediocre ones. But I don't think this was actually developed in-house at Psygnosis because if you look, what is that, Viewpoint? I think Viewpoint made the game and Psygnosis released it, which kind of explains why it's as clunky as it is because usually their games have a little bit more polish on them. So it's okay, but it could have been a hell of a lot better. This is one of my personal favorites. You have no idea, like when there were the original PlayStation 5 release video, like the stream that Sony did, where you first saw the design of the PS5, and they showed like a bunch of games that were coming out for it at the beginning. And the first game they showed was Grand Theft Auto 5. And I was like, great way to start this off with a game that's like 15 years old. When they showed the trailer for the new game in this series, I man-squeed, and I am not exaggerating. I freaking were like, oh my God! Because I talked about this franchise in one of my videos that was franchises that need to come back or need to make a comeback, and this was on my list because I love this franchise, and it just sucks that it had ended so long ago. But it did get another sequel, and I do own it for my PS5 now. Can't wait to sit through and play that. But this is the year of the RPG, so that's probably not going to happen. We're talking Oddworld, and this is Abe's Odyssey. It's one of those cinematic platformers like, what is it, Flashback, Out of This World, Prince of Persia, Blackthorn, that kind of thing. And it's absolutely fantastic. Abe is like a very fun, kind of sad character because of what's going on with his race. Like they're being used as food. and he's trying to like liberate his people from these. Like they basically work in this food company, food manufacturing company, not realizing that they're basically working themselves to death to be food for other people or other races. It's fucked up, and you have to like let all your people or get all your people free of the company. And it's really, really fun. The story is really fun. Like I said, like look at Abe on the cover. He's like grinning like that. He is just like one of the most charming characters in video gaming. Like underrated. I absolutely love this game. Love it, love it, love it. Since the moment I popped it in my PlayStation, I absolutely loved it. And luckily, we got a sequel. We got Oddworld Abe's Exodus, which is more of the same, just a little bit more polished. The stages are a lot bigger now. You're outside of the factory and all that. And this one is on, is it 2 discs, I think? No, it's only 1 disc, but the manual is super flippin' thick. Don't ask me why. I don't remember this. Oh, yeah, it's 2 discs. Yep, I forgot. Yep, 2 whole discs. So it's a lot bigger game than the first one. But a lot more game speak, possess the glucon, slugs. Yeah, you do like in the original game, you can like chant and you can like talk to the other Mudokons that are in the factory and all that. And then you can eventually like possess some of the bad guys and make them shoot each other and stuff. It's really cool the way it works. But it's like puzzle platforming awesomeness. I absolutely love this franchise. It kind of went off in weird directions. So we got Abe's Odyssey, Abe's Exodus, and then there was like 2 games. There was a Game Boy game and a Game Boy Color game. And then we got, what was it? Munch's Odyssey, which is one of the villains from the first game. It's like his little spinoff. And then we got Stranger's Wrath, which was a first-person shooter. It's really strange. Burps and farts, yep. Love that Hitch Horse film. Oh, gotcha. Gotcha, Peter. Yeah, I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Is you high, Peter? Here's one of my all-time favorite PlayStation 1 games, and that's Omega Boost. I would have put this in my Diamonds in the Rough, but Metal Jesus did it in his, and I had already, I think, one game that he talked about in his PlayStation 1 Hidden Gems video in my Diamonds in the Rough video, and I didn't want to like completely rip him off. So, and I think this was one of them in his video. So I was like, nope, one of them's got to go. This is the one that's going to go because this is, I think, is more well known than the one I was talking about. And this is like playing Star Fox, but you're in a giant mech in outer space. It is like, you know, you have like a reticle on the screen. Like your character, it's in third person. Your mech that you're in is like right in front of you. But you have like a reticle and you like hover it over the enemies that are coming at you and it like locks onto them and then you let go of the attack button and you shoot all these rockets at them kind of thing. It is super fast-paced and fun. I absolutely love it. From the moment I popped this into my PlayStation back then, I was like, yes, this is one of the best PlayStation 1 games I've ever played. It is so cool. But nobody was talking about it even back then. Like, this kind of flew under the radar for some reason. And if I remember correctly, this actually goes for quite a bit of money now. But whatever. From the creators of Gran Turismo. I'm not a fan of Gran Turismo. But that is a fantastic game from the makers of, I think, some very mediocre games. Okay, so this is one of my personal all-time favorites. I talked Captain Algebra into streaming this on one of his, like, I think, Tuesday night request streams or whatever it was, and he, like, flipped his lid over how much he did not like it. And I was like, well, maybe it's because I played it so much back in the day that I was willing to overlook its faults. I still think it's really awesome to this day. Maybe I just know the controls more because he hadn't played it before when he did stream it, so he didn't have like I grew to get used to the way the game controlled back in the day, and I absolutely loved it. And that is one. I talked this game's praises to everybody. Radical Reggie bought a copy of this game because I told him to buy it, and then he thanked me. I got like a burp caught right here. There we go. I knew I could do it. I'm proud of you, Chris. Anyway. Yeah, he thanked me. He's like, that game is freaking awesome. Thank you for recommending it to me. And it is a third-person action shooter, kind of like a run and gun, where you play as this prisoner who's been altered with this like robotic arm. And the more you punch people with it, the more it starts to glow and build up power until you can release like this nuclear blast type like area of effect explosion that will just take out everybody. And that, I think, was what Captain Algebra wasn't taking advantage of in the game, because you can also use that arm to shoot lasers at the bad guys and keep them at a distance. But the main mechanic of the game is to punch the shit out of people and build up the power of that arm and then just unleash like this blast that takes everybody out. It's like playing the biggest, well, at the time, like Michael Bay movie you've ever been in. The first stage is you running along this like bridge while there's a helicopter chasing you, shooting out every window right next to you as you're running along this bridge, just blowing everything up. And it's like playing a movie. It is absolutely fantastic. I love it. I love the atmosphere. I love the controls. I love the way it's like cinematic. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's clunky. It's a PlayStation 1 game. Like I said, every stream in the PlayStation and Saturn stream so far, still trying to figure out 3D in this era. So it was never ever going to be perfect. And I'm willing to say that now because, when you play it as an adult, you're not looking at it as a little kid anymore going like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I've never played anything like this before. I've played plenty of things that are better than this now. But I think it still holds up. I still think this is one of my favorite PlayStation 1 games. Check it out if you haven't played it. I absolutely love it. And I'm not Abe. No, I'm not. Oh. Remember the stupid weird noises you would make. Oh. Here is I think this is a Resident Evil style game. I cannot remember. I picked this up at that CD recyclery or whatever the hell it was called by my work that shut down. It's called Overblood. And I got this for, I think, $2.50. And I think this is a Resident Evil style survival horror game, if I remember right. If not, I think I only played this when I first got it in order to make sure it worked, and it did, and I never played it after that. But yeah, I do believe it is a Resident Evil style game. Control 3 characters with unique abilities to complete your quest. Full camera movement in 3D environment. Okay, so including a first-person mode. All right. So it's free roaming, but I remember it being more like a Resident Evil game, but it's just, okay, so it doesn't have like the set camera angles. That's cool. Compelling and suspenseful story that draws you into the drama. Gather clues, manage resources, and use your intuition to stay alive. Yep. I need to pop this in and play it because now I am intrigued. Ooh. And I don't remember where I got this from. I think I paid... If I paid anything for this, it was $1 because I would not normally buy this. But it's Pac-Man World. I think I got this in a lot, if I'm remembering right. But it's like 3D Pac-Man. Nothing fancy. It even has the original arcade version up here. You can see that. But yeah, it's just 3D Pac-Man and like a 3/4 view type of thing. Yay. I think this Pac-Man World series is actually still going. I think. Yeah, I think it is. I just realized now I don't have any of the Namco game collections, like the NAMCO, they're the 5 different volumes. I don't have any of those. I did have them back in the day, though. Here's one of my all-time favorite games, and that is Parappa the Rapper. Oh my god, you guys do not understand how this game took over my freaking life. This was like where the love of the rhythm game took off. Like, I had never played anything like this before. Everything I played was like Guitar Freaks, or was it Beatmania, or was it Groove, Busta Groove, that kind of thing. This was the one where like I wanted to play this every freaking waking moment, all day, every day. The songs were super catchy. The gameplay was tight. There was even like if you hit buttons at weird times, you could unlock like a freestyle mode, because basically, if you haven't played it, I'm sure you all have, because you're all awesome gamer people. The note, like the buttons that you need to press, like scroll by on the screen, and you have to hit them when they get to a reticle, like a certain point in. There's like a little, I think it was a circle or something like that. And if you hit, there's like hidden inputs within that, and if you figure out what they are, you unlock like this freestyle mode, and you can just do random raps and stuff. I've only done that maybe 4 times in my life. And I remember Lofi from Cult Moo, I was streaming the PlayStation 4 version of this on Twitch, and he joined the stream for a little while to watch, and he was asking me how to do the freestyle mode. And I was like, it's random. I don't remember where it is, but I've only done it maybe 4 times. All the times that I've played this game, it's only happened to me like 4 times, and I didn't really know what I was doing. It only lasted for maybe 30 seconds. But like, yeah, you're playing as this little beagle kid who wants to impress a girl because he's afraid that she's going to fall for this big muscle-bound dog guy. So he wants to become a rapper, and it's about him trying to like go through this voyage of self-discovery in order to gain confidence in order to ask her out. And he like learns how to cook. He learns how to drive. He ends up working at like the flea market with a frog. The frog song is my favorite song in this entire game. Like, in the rain or in the snow, I got the funky flow. You know, that thing. I love the songs in this game. They're all so catchy. Especially that one at the very end where you're on stage. That one I think is amazing. But love this game. I was like, the moment the physical version of the remaster of this came out for the PS4, I like ran over to PlayAsia and picked up a copy. You have no idea. And the day that it showed up was the day that I streamed it on Twitch. Yeah, Jammer Lammy. You'll see what I have for Jammer Lammy next stream. Parappa 2 is good. It's not as good as that, though. I was a little disappointed in it, but I still played the crap out of it. Here we have Parasite Eve, the OG. So this was from that era where Squaresoft was trying to branch out into all these different genres that they don't normally do. While this one is still an RPG, this is an action RPG, and it's like science fiction horror instead of fantasy. And I ate this up. Like, I thought the images and the reviews that I was reading in the magazines at the time were so interesting, and like it had me hyped. And the day that this came out, I remember I got off of work, I ran over to the Best Buy, and I bought a copy, and I played this all freaking night. I absolutely loved it. Never actually beat it, though. But everyone that I knew that I introduced to this game ended up getting a copy of their own and beating the shit out of it. But it is fantastic. It's kind of set up like a Resident Evil game with the fixed camera angles and stuff, but it is at its heart like a action RPG. And it's fantastic. You got mitochondrians mitochondria who are like becoming sentient and killing people, turning everyone into monsters and stuff. It's really gross and icky at times, but it's fantastic. I love it. Aya Braya. Yeah, I'm definitely, you know what? That's an RPG. That's being beaten this year. And that leads us to Parasite Eve 2, which is different. I think this was focused more on the action than the RPG, if I remember right. Yeah, this one, I remember people complaining that they like messed up what made the first one so cool. So I bought it back in the day, but I never actually like sat down and played it because I never beat the first one. I was just like, well, I bought the second one, so when I beat the first one, I have this to play. And I just started hearing nothing but bad things about it, so I never bothered. We got a third game later on the PSP. So, yeah, I've never actually played through it, but it looks kind of cool. I've watched video on it on YouTube and stuff, so I know how it works, but go for it. Yeah, I definitely will. I've always wanted to play through that, and I just never have sat down to do so, but this is the year that's going to happen. Next up, we have Pitfall 3D, Beyond the Jungle. This is not a good game, like, at all. It is a 3D version of Pitfall, and like I said multiple times already, trying to figure out that 3D in this day and age, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This is where it kind of didn't work all that great. When it's really trying to emulate what was in the original Pitfall for the Atari 2600, like you can see up here, with Pitfall Harry swinging around and stuff like that. That stuff is kind of fun when it's doing it like side-scrolling. But once you get into the 3D aspect of it, it's just really clunky and not all that entertaining. So I picked this up because it was dirt cheap somewhere. That's the only reason, honestly, I would have this in my collection is if I paid less than $5 for it. So the desert level like kind of bored you. Yeah, I hear nothing but complaints about it. I still haven't played this. I picked this up at Half Price Books. I remember that. But it was dirt cheap, too, and that's why I have it. That is Populous, the beginning. The original Populous, I know, came out on the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. Never actually played it. I watched a friend of a friend play the original game on the Genesis. That was the first time I ever saw Genesis being played. And I was like, wow, those cartridges are weird looking. That was one of the Electronic Arts cartridges that were really tall and had that yellow tab on the side. I was like, wow, those are strange. Like, okay. And this is just a 3D version of that. And that is like playing Sim City, but you're like a god, and you can like shape the ground and the texture and the topography and all that kind of stuff and like influence the cultures of the people that settle on the land and all that. So it's very complicated and very complex. At least I remember when I was watching that guy play it on the Genesis, being way too complex compared to like Sim City on the Super Nintendo. So I picked this up because it was cheap, but I still have not sat down to play it. Is it voiced by Bruce Campbell? It doesn't say on the box. But it doesn't say on the case. Hang on. It does include the original Atari 2600 version of Pitfall. It does say that, but it doesn't say anything about Bruce Campbell. If it was, you'd think they'd put that all over it, because Bruce Campbell was the shit back in the day. Here's another Psygnosis game, and I don't think they developed this one either. I think they just released it, but it's called the Professional Underground League of Pain. And it's kind of like if you were to take Highlight and football and combine the two. I've never actually sat down and played, because this is when I was just trying to collect all of the Psygnosis games on the consoles, and I never actually sat down to play it. But I think this came from Game Dude also. And you can see what it looks like. I'm not a sports game fan, so I never actually sat down to play this. But it looks actually kind of interesting. And does it have multiplayer? No, it's single player only. Oh, no, it does. Multi-tap 1 to 4 players. Okay. If I had like a party or something, and I don't have the multi-tap for the PS1. I need to get one. I would probably throw this in just to see what it's like. Because it looks, on the back, it doesn't look too bad. But like I said, I was only buying that because of the EA part of it. Or the Psygnosis aspect. But here we have Project Overkill from the Konami. And this is like playing the original Syndicate. Like a dungeon crawler, actually. This is like playing Diablo. But it's like a cyberpunk Diablo. And it looks pretty freaking rad. I remember I popped this in just to make sure that it worked when I got it. And it worked, but I need to sit down and play through this, because anything cyberpunk is like, savage, inhuman adversary. So it's like cyberpunk and horror mixed together. Yes. Here's another Psygnosis game that I picked up just because it's Psygnosis, but I really looked at the back and I was like, yeah, you're going to see one at the very end of this video that is by Psygnosis, and I had absolutely no intention of playing it, but I had to have it because Psygnosis. But this one is Cyberdeck, and that's like a little kid's version of Wipeout, but you're on like hoverboards and stuff like that, and you're playing as like a bunch of like edgy, futuristic teens and stuff. And I just looked at the back and I was just kind of like, if it wasn't Psygnosis, I never would have bought this, but whatevs. I think I played it for like a whopping 3 minutes, and I was just like, well, it works. Put it on the shelf. And then we're good. Absolutely love this. This is the port of Quake 2 by id. Absolutely love this franchise. Anything first-person shooter is definitely a win for me. Nintendo! What's up, dude? I watched your, was it Black Death, Thrash, Doom top 10 albums of 2022 vid today at work. That was pretty cool. I don't know any of those bands you talked about, but they looked pretty cool. I didn't know you got sick at the beginning of the year, man. I'm sorry. Cyberdeck. Yeah, it's not extreme enough, right, Peter? Yeah, so this is a first-person shooter, sequel to the first big polygon first-person shooter that was the original Quake. This one doesn't have music by Nine Inch Nails and Trent Reznor, though, which is kind of sad. I think this one has music by Frontline Assembly instead, which is one of my all-time favorite industrial bands. Like, I still listen to them on the regular. And it's just more of the same awesome first-person shooter action, and it's really crazy, too. So, absolutely love this one. I had to add that to the collection. Any of those classic first-person shooters, yes. Oh, Cyberdeck, yeah. You just beat Dex? God damn, dude. I got like lost in there. Like I wasn't very high leveled yet, and I went into a couple of areas that were like way too high level for my character, and I just got annihilated, and I was like, you know what? Fuck this. Here is an import from the Japan that I had to pick up because of the license that it is. Back in the day, this anime was one of the first big animes I ever got into. At the pickup video at the end of this month, you're going to see a couple of anime movies I picked up on home video that I they were like the formative anime movies, from when I was a kid. But this is Ranma 1/2 Battle Renaissance. So there have been multiple Ranma 1/2 games available on the Super Nintendo, mostly on the Super Nintendo, and I won it. Well, the Super Famicom. I don't remember if there was any on the original Famicom, but I definitely know that they're on the Super Famicom because I own 2 of them. And there's another one I think that is a RPG, and there's an RPG that's available on the PC Engine also. But the majority of them are one-on-one fighting games because the whole anime revolved around martial arts. I mean, the name of the show was Ranma 1/2. What was it? Round the Go-Go Martial Arts something. It had a weird martial arty title, whatever. But this one is all polygons instead of pixels, and it's kind of like playing Tekken with Ranma characters. So there's that. You can see I was trying to peel the label off when I got this because I picked this up at my old retro store. People Play Games, and I think this was $18.95. I was trying to get the label off, and I couldn't. It was like stuck. I think I'm just going to swap out the case because that thing is really it's really stuck on there. You can just tell by looking at it. But it's okay. It's not the greatest. I prefer the Super Famicom versions of this type of game, the fighting versions, to this because it's actually kind of clunky, and I'm not a big fan of Tekken. So there's that. Hit that like button for the algorithm, people. It definitely has a learning curve. Oh, yeah. But it was fun. It's Cyberpunk. I love Cyberpunk. I love the hacking levels are pretty cool, too, because it turns into a freaking shmup. So, yeah. Dex. If you haven't checked out Dex, people, do it. Next up is another Psygnosis game. This one is Rascal. This was like another attempt at some sort of a mascot for Psygnosis. It's a 3D, third-person platformer. We're playing as this 90s kid with Tood, and he's got a freaking water gun. Yippee freaking Skippy. It's okay. It could have been a lot better. It is fun for what it is. The parts of it or the little bit of it that I did play was pretty fun. When I tried this out to make sure that it worked, I wasn't like, yeah, I just wasted my money. It's fun. It just definitely could have used a couple more passes to polish it some more. But, for what it is, it's not bad. The motherfucking panda. Well, you can see the panda on the back of this one. That's Ranma's dad. You can see him down there fighting. I think it's Akane. Or Shampoo. Maybe Shampoo? Shampoo maybe? So, yeah. Yeah, you got Ranma, Akane, and Tachiwaki Kuno, age 17. I remember that from the anime when they introduced the character. When he introduces himself to Ranma, he goes, "My name is Tachiwaki Kuno, age 17. Okay. RC Revenge. This is like a 3D version of RC Pro-Am. It's a 3D racing game where you're racing RC cars. It's okay. It's not great or anything. This did get a couple of sequels. There's one on the Dreamcast and there's also one on the PlayStation 2. So it must have made money somewhere. So yeah, it's all right. It's decent game for what it is. Sequel to the awesome game that I have in the long box, we have Reloaded, the sequel to Loaded. And what does it say on there? Uncensored and uncut. So this is uber gory. And they show it on the back, man. There's just blood and guts all over those screenshots. So it's more of the same. It's a top-down, almost like three-quarter view, like run and gun, where you're basically playing as crazy people, just killing everybody in their path. And it's just blood and shit flying everywhere. It's awesome. Super fun, no-brainer type of game, but I absolutely love the original, so definitely have to have that. And I was thrilled to find that. And I think I did get this at that overpriced Play It Retro joint. Panda Punch to the Puss. I do have a Lundra. I do. I have both of them. Here's another licensed game. I picked this up at the Midwest Gaming Classic this year. Or no, 2022. And I've wanted it even though I know it's garbage. But I had to get it. I didn't really watch this cartoon. It was a Saturday morning cartoon because I was too old to watch that kind of shit when this is relevant. So, but I like it because of what it is mimicking. So that is Reboot. This is basically like a Saturday morning cartoon version of Tron. It takes place inside a computer, and there's all these computery characters, just like in Tron and all that, and there's like a big master control program guy and a guy like Sark and all that kind of stuff. But it was too little too late. I was way too old to be watching Saturday morning cartoons when it premiered. I do believe I watched the pilot, and I was just kind of like, no, I'm good. But this is a 3D action adventure, third-person style game that is based on the cartoon, and it has cutscenes and all that. I think this is based on the later seasons because I remember the main character in the original episode had like a different hairstyle. I think this is the older version of the character from like one of the later seasons or something like that. So, yeah, reboot, yeah. Really? Like, I don't know, making a comeback. Oh, they did, didn't they? Didn't they make something on Netflix that was based on Reboot where it was like half live action and half CG animation where like a bunch of kids got sucked in the computer like Tron? I think they did. Here we have... I don't have the first one because I'm okay with what I have for the other consoles, the newer consoles, but that is Resident Evil 2. This is not the DualShock version. No, it is not. This is the OG. I picked this up at that CD recycler place. I got this and Metal Gear Solid the day that I decided to go and try my luck at garage sailing. Like, I've been watching all these videos, especially, Scott Squatch from Video Game Sellers, always going out garage sailing in his area and coming home with, like, buckets of stuff. And I was like, that's going to be me today when I go out garage sailing. I'm going to come home with so much gaming stuff, I'm going to retire from the game entirely. No, I barely got anything that day. So on the way home, I felt so shitty for not finding anything that I stopped at that CD recyclery place and picked up basically all the gaming stuff that, I got more stuff there than anywhere else. And one of them was Resident Evil 2. And I love this game. I picked this up on day one back when it first got released. Absolutely loved it. Played through it as... So here was the thing with me. I played through it completely from beginning to end as Leon. I did Leon A. Did not realize I could go and do... what's her name? Claire B. And have it like go back and forth. I was like, I beat the game. Yay. Not realizing that like Claire's stuff was on one disc and Leon's stuff was on the other because I was stupid. Until like later on, like a year later, everyone was just like, oh, did you beat it twice? I'm like, why would I beat it twice? Like, well, you can play as Claire too. And I was just like, oh, I just thought that I missed some stuff and it didn't switch over to the second disc because I didn't need to do that stuff. Like, no, it's all Leon on disc 1 and Claire on disc 2. I was like, I fucked up. So back in the day, all I ever played was Leon until I beat the Dreamcast version because I was on the Cartridge Club podcast one Halloween with Musty Hobbit and Rocket Sauce talking about it. And I played through it as Claire this time. I did Claire A, and I got about halfway through Leon B. Playing it on the PlayStation 4, I did Claire A, and I got halfway through, or almost to the end of Leon B, but I ended up going to a boss battle where I had like no ammo and no way to refill my ammo, and I was missing one of the main weapons, and I just kept getting annihilated, and I gave up. I rage quit on stream. But absolutely fantastic survival horror game. That's still my favorite game in the franchise. Musty Hobbit. I miss Musty Hobbit. I wish he was still... I mean, I understand he gave up gaming and stuff like that, or at least YouTubing and all that, and collecting seriously. But I just wish... I miss talking to that guy because he was really cool. Yeah, Scott Squatch was also one of the first ones that I started watching when I got back into collecting. And I actually did a couple of trades with him, too. I bought a couple of things off of him, and I did a couple of trades. Mostly GameCube stuff. This one I got off of Facebook. I remember that much. It was some guy that was in some RPG group that I was in, and he was selling like some really expensive Atlas games. And I was like, I'll take that because that one always looked interesting to me. And that is Rhapsody, a musical adventure. So this is an RPG, but it has all to do with music. Haven't put a whole lot of time into it because RPG, but why not? I was always really interested in it because of the musical aspect to see how that worked into an RPG. And the cool thing about this is it's in one of these dual cases because it also comes with the soundtrack. And look at all those flippin' songs that come on this. There are 26 freaking songs on here. So must play that. I don't know if I'll play it this year. I've got more... There's more RPGs higher up the list than that. Pocky and Rocky. Xboxer Briefs. Yeah, he rebranded 3 freaking times. He was Musty Hobbit, then he changed to Second Breakfast, and then he changed to Xboxer Briefs. And then like 3 months after he did the rebrand, he like quit altogether, which is kind of a bummer. I still have this one sealed, but I have played this because I owned this back in the day. This is the new version that I got off of Amazon, and I got this like dirt cheap. Like I think this is a more expensive game, and I got a brand new copy of it for like $10. So I found someone slipping on the marketplace. But that is Rising Zan, the Samurai Gunman. I had this back in the day because the title alone got me. I love bad martial arts movies, and I'm not a Western fan, but I thought the idea of like a Western samurai thing was really cool, and it is awesome. It's like a 3D beat 'em up. We were playing as a guy who has a sword and a gun in the West, and it is awesome. It is absolutely fantastic. I need to bust this open and play it again. But there's also a game just like this on the PlayStation 2 called Samurai Western, which is more of like this. And I absolutely love it. I need to rip this open and play it again. It's fantastic. Yeah, she got into him because it did the same thing. Hunt and resell to fuel my collection. One day I asked myself if anyone else does that. Search YouTube, and Scott and Retro Liberty were the first channels that came up. Yeah, I used to watch Retro Liberty too, and then like one day his channel like absolutely disappeared because like his wife gave him the games or me ultimatum, and then he had to change his name and all that in order to, I guess, get out of the doghouse with the wife, and that's why he's Griff now or whatever. Whatevs. Here we have Road Rash 3D, which is not a port of the one that I have on the 3DO. The 3DO one is still set up just like the original Genesis games, except it's done with like Mortal Kombat graphics with like actors on a green screen being put into the game. This one is in full 3D polygons, and it's okay. The licensed soundtrack that this one has, it has, what is that? I can't read that. It is so small. Full on the Mouth, Kid Rock, The Merman, Sugar Ray, The Tet Party. I don't know. I can't read this. It doesn't look that dark in here on the video, but in here, the light that I have above my head is illuminating me just enough that I can like basically make out words, but it is so dark that I can't actually read. But it's a fun game. It's decent. This is, I think, the last version of Road Rash we ever got, though, if I remember right. Yeah, Rising Zan is awesome. I need to bust it open again. I haven't played it since like the 90s. Kid Rock and Sugar Ray. Yeah, not. At least it doesn't have, oh, God, what was the name of that band? You're My Butterfly Sugar Baby. Come, my lady. Come, my lady. You're my butterfly sugar baby. Oh, what was the name of Town? Crazy Town. Went to Ozfest in 2001, I think it was. 2001, I think, yeah. And it's like Marilyn Manson and Disturbed and Kitty and Ozzy Osbourne and, you know, Fear Factory and all this kind of stuff. And then Crazy Town. Huh? Awful. So Creepleet, I don't think he's here tonight. Creepleet put out a feeler on Twitter a couple of days ago, maybe yesterday, asking, who's like, I need to know what some like hidden gems on the PlayStation are. You know, I need to know some games that aren't exactly well known. I put this down as one of my responses. That is Rogue Trip. This is Twisted Metal by the people that made Twisted Metal. This was like when they left Single Track or whatever it was, and they made their own company. Or is this still Single Track? No, this is still Single Track. I don't know what the hell the deal is then. Sorry, my bad. Anyway, same people that made Twisted Metal made this. And it's more of Twisted Metal, except crazier. The locales are nutty. The characters are nuttier. There's like this morbidly obese Elvis and stuff. There's like recharge stations that you can go to and stuff like that. But like it's mostly about the environments. The environments are absolutely nuts in this game. And so are the vehicles and stuff. There's like that hearse that looks like it has Jason Voorhees mask attached to it and stuff. It's absolutely crazy. I love it. I absolutely love it. Anything that is vehicular combat on the PS1. And the thing is, we're just talking about like Crazy Town and Kid Rock and Sugar Ray. This one features music from the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. Oh boy. Highly recommend this game. If you like Twisted Metal or play that what was it called? Critical Depth, definitely play Rogue Trip. It is fantastic. Splatterhouse Car, yep. What's up, Red Sea? How's it going? Yep, I do have Project Overkill. I talked about that earlier. Here's another Psygnosis game. Managed to snag the limited edition version of this. There's 2 versions of this out there, and luckily when I went on eBay to look for these, they had both, and I picked the limited because why not? Why not? That is Roll Cage. This is the limited edition, and this one also has a licensed soundtrack. God, I got the frickin' burpees all day. Yeah. Music by Fatboy Slim. Horror, Pressurize. Rat Pascal. Freestyles. Easy Rollers. Dan Mass. Aphrodite. Don't know who any of these people are except for Fatboy Slim. Yep. So it's all like drum and bass type of stuff. It's like, electronic music. But the thing is, it's a racing game. But the cool thing about this one that I think sets it apart, that I would basically recommend it, is the wheels in the front and the back are oversized. They actually go over the top of your car. And there is a lot of like tunnels that you can go into. And just like in like Stun Runner, you can like drive up on the walls and the ceilings and all that. And if you flip over, you still land on your wheels if you land top down, and you can still drive. So no matter if you flip over, you're always going to land on a tire. The tires, if you're driving with the canopy up or the canopy down facing the ground, as those wheels go over the top and the bottom of the car, you can keep on driving no matter what. It's a pretty cool mechanic, and I think it sets it apart from all the others in this genre. So I highly recommend picking this one up because it's just that unique. And it's got a multiplayer mode. It's actually pretty cool. What is that? Fetzoislim? What? I don't know what the hell's going on. Hootie's first main album is great. That was so popular, apparently. Well, the thing that makes it the limited edition is that it comes with the soundtrack, the licensed soundtrack with all the drum and bass type stuff on it. I should pop this into my Mac and see how that stuff is. I got the Roll Cage soundtrack. Ooh, life is dandy. Anyway, so that was popular enough that they made Roll Cage Stage 2. And it's more of the same, but the graphics have been greatly improved, and so has the control. And the tracks are absolutely nuts this time around. I played this one quite a bit. It is a lot of fun. The whole mechanic with the wheels and like being able to drive, whether you're face up or face down, is really, really cool. So I recommend both of those if you are into that type of game. Here's another Psygnosis game. Like I told you, I was just like, there was like a good 3 months where I was doing nothing but buying Psygnosis stuff. And it shows, obviously. This one is a kid's game, though, and it's not all that great. It's called Roscoe McQueen Firefighter Extreme. Yeah, this is like a little kid's style game. It's like a third-person action game where you're playing as this like firefighter who looks like frickin' Buzz Lightyear's derpy twin, and you're just putting out fires, and that's all you do. Is you're armed with like a backpack with a hose, and you're just putting out fires. So it's kind of like a crappy version of what's that called? Burning Rangers on the Saturn. It's a little kid's game. What do you want? Nothing special. What is this? Oh, yeah. So last stream I talked about Fighter Maker and how it's really complicated. Graphics. Oh, yeah, I highly recommend Roll Cage Retro Coupe. It's pretty cool. H-Tech also put out a whole series of RPG makers. I might actually play this year as part of my RPG 2023 thing. So, yes, you can make your own RPG in here. It has all the assets you need, character models, like backgrounds for the stages and the environments and all that kind of stuff. Only problem is there's no keyboard support, so you have to do it all with the controller, picking every single letter that you want to have in there for the word bubbles and all that kind of stuff. But it says, be the DM of your ultimate RPG, design and script everything imaginable in a fantasy adventure world, more than 400 dungeon components, 68 character choices, 16 special abilities per character, comprehensive library of game designer tools, save memory cards. What? Oh, share memory cards and challenge your friends. Anime Maker tools let you create and animate characters from scratch. So it's nuts. And there's a story. The only thing I've ever liked from Pat the NES Punk is when he was doing his podcast with Ian, there's like this series of episodes that were like spaced years apart because Ian didn't like talking about it. There was this guy that used to come into Ian's store and would like creep on him and apparently had a crush on him. Invited Ian to his birthday. He lived like with his mother in like a halfway house. And like he made Ian sit there in his bedroom. It was just the two of them together. There was no one else that came to this party that he had organized. They played like, was it Phantasy Star Online multiplayer for like hours and hours and hours. And then he says, hey, I made a comic book about you. Do you want to read it? And it was like basically alluding that the kid wanted to have sex with Ian. And then the last straw that made Ian flip out and say, I need to get the hell out of here was he goes, oh, I made a game about you too. You want to play it? And he basically made a game about Ian in RPG Maker, and where he even further alludes to the fact that he wants to have sex with him, which is just creepy as hell. And Ian had like a panic attack and like bolted out of there. It is one of the funniest things you'll ever see. Look them up if Pat the NES Punk still has his old podcast episodes up. They're funny as hell. And I've always been afraid to try these because this is the kind of thing like when I get to create my own, like with MTV Music Generator, like we were talking about earlier, how deep I went into that. I made like an entire album's worth of music with that thing. And how deep I get into that kind of thing. If I were to sit down and play this, I would not escape. And it just scares me that once I start, I would not be able to stop. I would just be playing this all the time. So I've never actually popped this in to try it out, but I really want to. I might use that as the last thing I play this year for when it comes to the RPGs. There is a newer version out that came out for the PlayStation 4, and Jason of Corpse Flood Gaming and I made like we told each other like in one of our episodes of the Super Enabler Brothers podcast that we were each going to make an RPG in that game and then send each other the file, and then we'd have to play each other's RPGs and then review them, which would have been pretty fun. Firefighter cousin from New York, New York, Bernie Light Fuse. You played RPG Maker for 1 weekend and got frustrated because of the controls. Yeah, I wish it had keyboard support. That's the one thing that would make me. That's one of the other reasons why I haven't popped it in, because it doesn't have keyboard support. Definitely put Parasite Eve at the top of the list or play around December. I got RPG Maker MV. That's one I have. Yep. Never got around to it. Those games have a steep learning curve. And I do believe the new one has a built-in RPG to just play. Uses all the assets and stuff that are available in the game. Legend of Legaia, not on the PlayStation, but I do have the sequel for the PS2. Did they have sex? No, they did not. I actually downloaded those two videos where Ian talks about them, Nintendo. Let me look for the names of them so you can do a search on YouTube, but I still have them here. Let me see. Where are you? There they are. Look up the title Ian's Stalker Friend, and there's two videos, Ian's Stalker Friend, on YouTube, and you'll see it. The first one, the second one's about the ranch dressing. The one that says ranch dressing in the title, that's part 2. RPG Game Maker. God. Yeah, I don't know what I would have done in that situation where basically somebody was like hinting that he wanted to bang me through video games and comic books. I would have been like, ain't happening, bro. So another Psygnosis game, we have Sentient. And the cool thing I remember about this one is that it's procedurally generated. Every time you play this game, everything changes. Locations, the environments are in different order, all that kind of thing. It's an adventure game, and it says unparalleled in-game artificial intelligence automatically randomizes subplots, so it's never the same game twice. Unique communication feature allows you to interact with over 60 characters. Characters react and express a variety of emotions based on your intercommunication and actions. 200 real-time rendered locations to explore. It's like a third-person action adventure game, and it's just a really cool idea. Then one of the really cool ones that Psygnosis put out, which actually try to do a bunch of different things. So I recommend this one of all of them. Followed up by this, which is still sealed also, but I did play this back in the day. There's a other reason why I wanted this other than the fact that it was released by Psygnosis. So this is Sentinel Returns. This is a sequel to, I think, an old Mac game, which never got a port anywhere except there. And it's like a walking simulator, if I remember correctly, and you're trying to get to like the center of this world to get back to yours. It says, know you're being watched. You know the Sentinel is out to get you, anticipating your every move, stopping at nothing to destroy you. Maneuver with cunning through over 650 eerie levels of white-knuckle gameplay based off the classic hit Sentinel by Jeff Crammond, with a haunting soundtrack provided by famed horror meister John Carpenter. This chilling thriller tests every strategy in your arsenal, every nerve in your body, and every hope of your survival. So when I found out back in the day that John Carpenter did the music for this game, I immediately became interested. But the only problem was I could never find it anywhere. This was one of those games that had must have had a really limited release or something like that, because I looked at Funko Lands, I looked at Best Buys, I looked everywhere that sold video games. No one ever had a copy of this. And then randomly, when I got back into collecting, I found a sealed copy off of, I do believe, Amazon, and got it dirt cheap. So, still haven't opened it. Yeah, if you like John Carpenter's music scores, like from Halloween and Prince of Darkness and They Live and all that, check this shit out. I downloaded the soundtrack to that, and I have it on my computer, and it is actually pretty cool. Funko Land. I love Funko Land. I wish they were still around. Not sure what kind of game this is. I think it's an RPG. It's 3 discs. Yeah, it's definitely got to be an RPG. Shadow Madness. I remember I picked this up at that CD recycler or whatever the hell it was called. But I never really played it because RPG. If it's an RPG, I probably have not played it. But I got it because it was dirt cheap. So there was that. It looks kind of cool, if you ask me. This is what gave it away up here, is seeing the stats menu and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Shadow Madness is odd. Really? Here's another Psygnosis game. Do you know how many Psygnosis games there are for this damn console? And I still don't have them all. There's still 2 or 3 that are super expensive. They had one of them at the new retro store that I go to, and I was like, no, I'll sell some things that I don't want anymore to get that. And when I went back, it was gone. I'm like, somebody actually paid $300. Oh, which one was it? It was one of their mascot-y type games, too. I'll have to look it up. But here we have Shadow Master, which is, it says, the ultimate fantasy shooter. This is, you're inside a giant tank, and you're just blowing up other shit. And it's not really all that crazy and complicated, but graphically, it's actually pretty impressive. But I haven't spent a lot of time playing it. Bought all these games at once, so I can't play them all back to back. GameStop, I went to GameStop, what was it, December, to get Callisto Protocol. That was the first time I'd been in a Funko Land for probably 2 years. I think the last time I was in a Funko Land before that was when I sold my original Xbox One after I got my Xbox One X. That was it. I traded it in, got some credit, got some games for it, or games for my Xbox and I think the PSVR, and I never went back. I used up all my credit, and that was it. Here's another Psygnosis game. We have Shipwreckers, which is it's a pirate game, but it's all at sea. It's all about ship-to-ship battles and stuff, and it's top-down, 3/4 view. And I popped this one in to see if it worked, and it was fine. But it does seem very child-friendly, so I didn't really put any more time into it, but eventually I will. So, yeah, there's that. I just think it's funny that the pirate skull and crossbones is wearing those 90s glasses that were really popular. Yeah, hip. So hip. You kids. Yeah, GameStop bought them all out. Yeah, there was a Funko Land, and then GameStop moved in down the street, and then next thing you know, the Funko Land turned into a GameStop. So we had two GameStops, like basically on the same corner. They're just facing in opposite directions. And then all of a sudden, the one that was the Funko line just randomly disappeared one day, and everything that was in the store got absorbed into the other GameStop, which kind of sucked. Babbage's, yeah, I used to go to Babbage's, and there was Software Etc., EB Games. Okay, so here's one of these interesting age tech, like discount games or like budget games. They released like a whole series of these in Japan, and they eventually got released over here. I think they were called like the Budget series or something like that. But this one is called Shooter Space Shot. And it does not look good. Like if I would have gone to Best Buy back in the day and I saw this on the shelf, I would have passed right by it. Turns out a lot of these games are pretty cool. This one is a horizontally scrolling shooter. But the thing is, the pictures on the back are so dark, you can barely make that fact out. It just looks like something is shooting across the screen here, and there's like a planet on that one. You really have to like get real up close to realize, oh, there's a ship there that's shooting something. It's hard to see, but it's a decent horizontally scrolling shmup. It's not going to win any awards or anything like that. It doesn't break the mold, but it's a very fun shmup. Yeah, there's a bunch. I have this other one called Shooter Starfighter Sandvane, and I think this one is like a board game, if I remember correctly. There are 3 different ships, the Gluon, the Photon, and the Graviton. Time is the ultimate measure of success. Run out of time and game over, pal. Every time your ship is hit by enemy fire, you die, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah, it looks like a board game to me. Or is this a twin-stick shooter? Here's a twin-stick shooter? I don't know. Can't really tell. I've never actually played this one. Can't comment. But like I said, if I saw this at Best Buy, I would have just flipped right past it and gone and looked for something else because that just looks generic AF. So I like that one budget puzzle game. There's a bunch. I think those are the only 2 that I have, but I have a bunch in my my wish list on Amazon, and they're still actually pretty cheap. They're not that expensive. Okay, so did you guys ever watch the channel Continue? I think they're still a thing. I haven't watched them in like 5 or 6 years. Eventually, I unsubbed because I just stopped watching because, like, the shtick, it was like 3 guys sitting on a couch playing a game that they'd never played before, and they would like roast it as they were playing it. And it was kind of funny when I first started watching, but then they started playing games that I actually liked, and they were like picking it apart for no reason other than the fact that that was what their job was. And it kind of annoyed me, so I kind of gave up and I stopped watching. Continue, yes. But I haven't watched them, like I said, in like 5 or 6 years. One of the games that they were playing in one episode and that really made me laugh was Trek. Wow, my mouth. Shrek Treasure Hunt. And this game is absolutely awful. And they, like, the moment they booted up, even they were like, oh no, we made a mistake. But sometimes terrible games can be really fun in a group. And the 3 of them playing this game was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It wasn't just the stuff they were saying. It's like the stuff that happens in the game is like off the wall weird and doesn't make any sense, but like it's like watching like a bad B movie. And you just can't help but laugh at it, and it actually makes it more entertaining. The thing with this is you'd be ripping on how bad it is while you're playing it, and you'd actually you'd start enjoying it. It's just like that. It's like a B movie in video game form. It does not work. It is just a bunch of like random fetch tasks in 3D, and it's terrible, but it's also kind of cool. And I remember I did not actively go looking for this because of that video. That was not my intention. I went to a flippin' Savers, which everywhere else in the U.S. it's called Value Village, but in Illinois it's called Savers. And I just walked to the video game section, didn't see anything there. Went to the CDs because sometimes people that work at these places don't know what the hell a video game is compared to a CD. Looked in the CD section, and sure enough, I found this sitting there, and it was like $3. And I was like, oh, okay, for $3, yes. And I just grabbed it, and I took it home. So, yeah, it's terrible, but it's really, really fun. So it's like one of those games you get together with your friends to play while you're drunk, and you have a good time. Yeah, you're crying. That episode was so funny that I was like, I need that game if I can ever find it. But I never actually, like I said, never actually like went out looking for it at any point. but I just randomly came across it at that Savers, and I was just kind of like, aha! Nintendo, I actually got this one from you. We did that trade. You gave me this, and I gave you, I think it was Scramble on the Vectrex, because I had that loose cartridge. And I think I also paid you some money on the side. And that is the OG Silent Hill. Type in Tales from the Game Store. The ones that had to do with that guy, they were called Ian's Stalker Friend. But this is I had the greatest hits version of it, and I hated it. I wanted to get the Black Label version, and Nintendo was getting rid of one. And it also comes with that metallic, reflective kind of cover, which is kind of awesome. I had this game back in the day. I picked it up because Resident Evil was like one of the coolest things ever back then, and I was like, I want the next best thing. Silent Hill. Only thing was, like, I got to a certain point in it, and I just gave up on it. I don't know why. I just stopped playing it. It wasn't that I didn't like it or anything like that. It was just like, I don't know if I was expecting this to just be exactly like Resident Evil, and it wasn't, and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But I was enjoying it because it's full 3D. Like, you're running through a full 3D environment instead of those static pictures that you run through in Resident Evil. And I thought that was really cool, and I thought the story was interesting and all that kind of stuff. And it was genuinely creepy. But like, just for some reason, I just stopped playing it and moved on to something else. That was kind of the way it was back in the day. Still is to this day sometimes. But it's a fantastic game. I absolutely loved it. I just need to go back and play through all these. Classic survival horror game. Looking for your daughter in the cursed town of Silent Hill. Creep City. Hell yeah. Resident Evil 2 Remake is fantastic, and then I rage quit because I was dumb. Resident Evil 3 Remake is good too. Pick this one up at, I think the name of the place is called The Pad. When I went video game hunting with It's Rocket Sauce, Captain Algebra, and Tiger Chainsaw back in August. Tiger Chainsaw was like, there's this place that I found called The Pad, and it was like way out of the way, but it was kind of close to, I think it was called Game Over or Press Start, maybe Press Start. And we went there, and they had a ton of shit. They had an in-box DuckTales 2, a CIB DuckTales 2. That was like $300. And I was sitting there going like, I might actually sell some of the stuff that I bought at these other stores today in order to get that, because that's not a bad price for a CIB DuckTales 2. I almost did it. I was just kind of like, no. And then we went back the following month when I went back in September in 2022, and I actually had the money to get that DuckTales 2, and it was gone. Somebody actually had bought it. Anyway, so one of the games I picked up while I was there is Skull Monkeys. And this has like the lenticular cover. You can see the character's eyeball moving around. I rented this back in the day because I like me a good platformer, and I heard this was a very fun one. The reviews were pretty positive. And I did not realize that it was made with claymation. Everything in this is claymation. It's a claymation platformer. And it's awesome. It is animated so well. It's colorful. It's funny. The character designs are rad. And I just never bought a copy of my own back in the day. Just never did. And I've always wanted a copy of it. And they had this at that overpriced store by me called the Play It Retro that I keep talking about. And they wanted like an obscene amount of money for this. This was one of the ones where I saw it in their case, and it had no price on it. And I said, hey, how much for that Skull Monkeys in there? And the guy goes, give me a minute. And he went on eBay and looked it up and added like another 10% onto it. And I was like, eat my ass. So I passed. But the price at that pad place was not bad. Not bad at all. I will not say what I paid for it because you'll think I'm stupid. But I've wanted this game for so long, I was willing to, I was like, if that's as low as it's ever going to get, that's the lowest price I've ever seen this game going for ever since I started collecting again. I'm going to get it while I can. So I picked it up, and it is fantastic. It is an awesome platformer. I highly recommend this one if you can get a copy of it. It is amazing. $3, god damn. Yeah, if you like claymation, definitely check it out. It's like playing like Nightmare Before Christmas in video game form, like not the movie, but that style. It's really, really cool the way it looks. So it's getting creepy as fuck right around there. Next up is, I think we had this at the video. Yeah, this was one of the games I recommended my boss buy for the video store I worked at in the 90s when we were trying to build up our video game collection because Super Nintendo and Genesis were dying off. Everyone was going for the PlayStation. we're trying to stay competitive with the Blockbuster down the street. So I was trying to buy AAA and like generic kind of like not well-known games. So we had a nice collection of things to set us apart from Blockbuster. Weird thing was, the only thing that really rented at our store were the AAA games. It was like if they couldn't get it at Blockbuster, people would come to us and get it from us. So all these like single A games, you know, double A games were not renting that much at all. And one of them was Slamscape. And it's kind of like a racing game, but it's kind of like racing and Demolition Derby in the future. It's okay. It has a decent soundtrack. That's one of the reasons why I wanted it when I got it back into my collection. When I found this when I was game hunting, I wanted to get it back in my collection because I remember the music being pretty cool. I remember I brought this home from the video store one night when it didn't rent, which was most nights, and I tried it out, and I was like, this isn't terrible. Maybe I'll put it on in the video store one of these days and have it playing so people can actually see that it's not a bad game. But it just never really rented. So I was kind of sad about it because my boss was not happy about spending money and with no return on investment. So those were $50 a pop back in the day. And he spent $50 and I think it probably made 20. Total, not profit. Not a profit of 20. It made it like he lost $30 on it. Yeah, the Netflix Pinocchio one. I wasn't actually a big fan of it. I didn't like how dark it got. But this one I rented back in the day, and I absolutely loved it. I rented this from Blockbuster because my boss wouldn't buy it. And it's called Sled Storm. It's kind of like Arctic Thunder before Arctic Thunder. So it's like a arcadey snowmobile racing game, and it is actually super fun. And it does have multiplayer and all that. But one of the cool things is this also has a licensed soundtrack. And I remember when I was playing it, I was just like, oh my God, Rob Zombie. This is awesome. It has Rob Zombie, Uberzone, Easy Rollers, Dave and Roland. I don't know who the fuck that is. And I cannot read this other one. Something that starts with an E Crush. Whatever. Actually pretty fun. Like if you like arcadey racing games and like the snowmobile aspect of it, you do tricks and stuff like that too. It is super fun. I highly recommend picking this one up. That's one of those games that I normally wouldn't have any interest in, which is why I was renting it instead of buying it. But it is amazing. I love that one. The red cover, that was Slamscape. Yeah, like I said, it's a racing game mixed with Demolition Derby, but it's in the future. Like you have like hovering ships. It's not bad. This is awesome though. I love Sled Storm. I think that was one of the first games that got back into my collection when I first got back into collecting. This one I picked up with Captain Algebra. I got it at Half Price Books, and I think this was seriously like $3. And it's Small Soldiers. Anyone remember this movie? From the director of Gremlins. This was like one of the movies that he made in the 90s that nobody remembered. I remember it. I saw it opening weekend in the theater because it's Joe Dante. I love Joe Dante. He did Inner Space, The Howling, Gremlins, Gremlins 2, part of the Twilight Zone movie. He was one of my favorite directors because he always, like, his movies were always weird and funny. Like, they're creative weird. And this was just essentially like toys swapped out for the Gremlins and Gremlins. Kirsten Dunst was in it, and Phil Hartman. And like I remember, like within 3 weeks of me seeing in the theater, the movie was gone from the theaters. Like nobody gave a shit. This like bombed hard. And I remember it was pretty bad because DreamWorks has just Steven Spielberg's like film company or film distribution company. This was like one of their bigger budgeted movies, and it bombed hard. And it was a real bummer because like they were banking on this, like continuing to make their, like they had done the Peacemaker and Amistad and a couple of other movies, and they were all big hits. And then this was like a huge bomb. This had a big budget and it bombed bad. But it got a video game. And it's like a third-person action-adventure game where you're playing as the toys. And I think you can play as both sides. If I remember right. Featuring the voices of Tommy Lee Jones as the voice of Chip Hazard, which is the main bad guy right here. And Frank Langella was the voice of this character. I don't remember what their names were, though. But yeah, I mean, I picked this up dirt cheap, and it's a licensed game. I have to have it because it's a licensed game. It's okay. So, whatevs. Hey, Gray White North, how's it going? If you like the movie, you'll probably like the game. How about that? It does feel like it represents the movie pretty well. It's one of those games that just feels kind of rushed, like most licensed games at the time did. This one I got kind of pissed off at because I didn't realize that I'd already owned it on a different console. I picked this up in the Midwest Gaming Classic, and it was not that expensive. It was pretty cheap. It's called Soul Divide. And I looked at the back, and I'm like, oh, it's a horizontally scrolling shmup, but you're not in a ship or anything like that. You're like an angel. And you not only shoot, but you also have like a melee weapon. You can smack people with it, like a big spear, like a kind of thing. And you just whack people. It's really cool the way it works. And I was like, that's interesting. I did not know that existed. Give me that. And then I come home, and I had ordered this shoot 'em up collection. I think it was a Psycho collection for my Switch. And that shows up, and it had Soul Divide on it. I was like, son of a bitch. I own this game twice now. So do I get rid of this? Because they have it on the Switch, and the Switch version is actually better. It doesn't have any of the load times that this does. So, excuse me, I might get rid of this. I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. I'm getting like the bad acid reflux right now for whatever reason. I ate like 5 hours ago, and I'm burping like I just finished eating like 10 minutes ago. I don't get it. Which collection is sold? It's one of the Psycho. Let me look it up on my phone. It'll be in my collection. Nintendo Switch. Psycho. I think it's Psycho Collection Volume 1. Yeah, Psycho. I don't know if you can see it. Psycho Collection Volume 1. And there's a Volume 2 also with more shmups on it. Yeah, I'm burping like I feel like I threw up in my mouth. I can taste like vomit. Sorry to be grossing you guys out, but Jesus, getting old sucks. One of my all-time favorite games on this console is definitely Soul Blade. This is the original Soul Calibur. This was in the arcade. It was called Soul Edge, but for some reason, when it came to the home console, they could not keep it as Soul Edge, so they had to rename it Soul Blade. I don't get it. There's something licensing involved. Don't understand it, but one-on-one fighting game. Opposite of, like, Namco was known mostly for the Tekken games, and those are like technical fighting games. It's all about countering and like, what was it, the frames, watching the frames of the characters so you can know when to like get a punch in while they're in the middle of one of their moves, kind of thing. This is the exact opposite. Like, Namco went complete opposite direction. This is just arcade fighting, beat the crap out of everybody, combo crazy. Characters are nuts. Like Voldo, what the hell? Somebody loves Hellraiser movies. Absolutely love this game. All the characters are fun. I love playing as Maxie. I love playing as Taki. One of my all-time favorite fighting games. And I love every iteration of it past that. Like when Soul Calibur on the Dreamcast came out, I was just like, ah! And every game after that. Soul Calibur 3, maybe not so much. But the rest of them, holy shit. Love this game. Absolutely one of my all-time favorite one-on-one fighting games. Guy tried to copyright the word edge. What? Was it the wrestler? That's stupid. Picked this one up on a lark. I remember I was putzing around at work on eBay, and I saw this, and it was by Konami, and I was like, ooh, and it was also dirt freaking cheap. I think I paid like $7 for it. And that is Soul of the Samurai. I knew absolutely nothing about that. I had never heard of this before, and I just picked it up because it was there, trying to add all the games to the collection kind of thing at the very beginning. And it's like a one-on-one, not a one-on-one, but it's like a beat-em-up, and I think choose from two distinct characters and play both sides to discover the truth. Uncover the meticulous or nefarious plot. See, I can't really read these. It's so dark in here. The nefarious plot of whatever that read. I can't read it. Seek out information from villagers and strangers. Yeah, it's an adventure game, but it's also a beat-em-up where you're playing as these two different characters. I just thought it looked kind of cool, and it was cheap, and it's by Konami, and it said Samurai in the title. I love that kind of thing. I think I originally thought that this was going to be like Bushido Blade, and then like it shows up, and I look at the back, I'm like, oh, it's something different. It looks like you're even shooting stuff out of your damn sword there. So, yes. And I do believe that has a sequel on another console. The intro song is a banger. Yo, Chris a ring light. Get Chris a ring light. No, my vision is also starting to go. I'm signing up for vision through my insurance at work, so I need to go get glasses or something because I'm starting to it's getting harder for me to read stuff close up. Getting old, guys. That's why I'm the old ass retro gamer. I had this game originally for the Nintendo 64, and I think it was because it was, for some reason, Best Buy was selling the Nintendo 64 version cheaper than the PlayStation version. I don't remember if it was a glitch or something in their pricing, but I took advantage of it because Nintendo 64 games were notoriously more expensive than disc-based games because it was all on this big physical media cartridge thing. There's chips in there. Chips are expensive. CDs are not. So the coup of getting the probably inferior version of this game for $15 cheaper than the PlayStation version was what I think prompted me to do it. I probably shouldn't have just gone for the PlayStation version right off the bat. But whatever. I think I was just starving for new Nintendo 64 games, so I picked it up, and it was okay. I was mostly thrilled that this license got turned into a first-person shooter, and that is South Park. Acclaim turned South Park into a first-person shooter. You're hunting. You're going after turkeys and the crazy derpy clones from the cartoon and stuff like that. Your weapons are pea-soaked snowballs and dodgeballs and a cow gun that the ass of the cow lands on your head. It's weird. It's also not that great. It's a lot of just repetition. The enemies don't change and stuff like that. It's you're always fighting the same person in each stage. It's you're in the turkey level. All you're fighting are the same turkey. You're in the derpy clone guy level. Everyone looks exactly the same. It's all right. And there's even a multiplayer split screen mode, but yay. I wanted it because I loved South Park back in the day, and I wanted to support it any way that I possibly could. Also, I love first-person shooters, so the combination of the two I thought was weird, but I was here for it. It just turned out to not be a very good game. But when I got back into collecting again, I found the PlayStation version. I was like, I'll just get that. I'll skip the Nintendo 64 version because I hate the Nintendo 64. It's a Japanese copy, yeah. When I bought it, they hadn't been released in the U.S. yet. They were only in Japan at that point in time. But there's three volumes of that Saikyo collection. Next up, I talked about the follow-up to this, Nuclear Strike. So we have Soviet Strike, and this was when I got the day that I decided to get back into video game collecting in 2013. I was I had a bunch of movies. I had a bunch of video games, loose video games that I didn't want anymore because I was I'm going to do everything in box if it comes in a box originally, like a Nintendo or Super Nintendo or whatever. I had a bunch of loose stuff I wanted to get rid of. I had a bunch of movies that I was getting rid of, mostly my DVDs because I was upgrading everything to Blu-ray, and now I'm doing the exact same thing with the 4Ks. So I had these bags of things I was getting rid of. I'm I'm going to go to Half Price Books. Last time I was there, they had a ton of video games. I'm going to trade in all this junk for video games. And this was one of the games I brought home that day, Soviet Strike. So this is more of the same, just like I said with Nuclear Strike. A 3/4 isometric view where you're playing as a helicopter. You're just taking out targets all over the place. This one is obviously mostly in Russia. It also has craptastic live action video cutscenes. But this was a very big upgrade from what Urban Strike was. Urban Strike was the last one released on the previous generation, and this is the first one on the disc-based systems from the creators of the Desert Strike series, or Desert Strike trilogy. It's not a trilogy anymore if you have part 4. So yeah, this is the 4th game in the series. Nuclear Strike is the 5th. But these are all fun. I like all those Desert Strike style games. They're all pretty cool. There's another import, and I picked this one up at the Midwest Gaming Classic because, the money that I put aside for when I go to a convention, I like to just, I saved it for a reason. I'm going to spend all of it. And I remember it was the end of the last day. It was an hour left in the con. I'm I still got $30 in my pocket. What am I going to spend it on? I'll go check out this import table, see what they got. And I found this, and I'm familiar with the license that this is based on because I saw there was a CGI animated movie that they made based on. I thought it was pretty cool. I actually have it in the other room on 3D Blu-ray. Excuse me. And it turned out they made an RPG out of it in Japan for the PlayStation. And that is Space Battleship Yamato. This is like a long-running anime series, if I remember correctly. And I picked it up, and I was like, okay, cool. Probably won't be able to play it, though, because it's an RPG, and it's in Japanese, so logic didn't really apply. I just had money burning a hole in my pocket, and I wanted to spend it. And I picked this up and Super Fire Pro Wrestling on the Super Famicom at the same time. And that was where my last $30 at the convention went. So I picked this up just because it was there, and it's a license I was familiar with, and I was just kind of like, oh, it's kind of cool. I have a really interesting Japanese game. Hopefully, when my Poly Mega finally shows up, there is a translation patch I can use to play this. This one I bought because I wanted to talk about it in one of the videos I made at the beginning of 2022 when I did that 31 Days of Licensed Games series that lasted all January. I was going to talk about this in there because I was like, there was the whole thing I did where it was, what was it, a video game based on a celebrity, and I was going to talk about this. And then I was like, no, I'd rather just talk about this other game. And I ended up picking Michael Jordan, Chaos in the Windy City. I wanted to talk about Space Jam. This is all about Michael Jordan. I ended up picking the other Michael Jordan game because I remembered that this was not that great. It was trying to be like NBA Jam, and I think it does use the NBA Jam engine, but putting all these like other characters in it just kind of ruined it, I think. Because I remember not enjoying this back in the day, but I wanted to buy it so I could talk about it, and I probably would have shit on it in the video. But yeah, I ended up picking the better game. Definitely Michael Jordan Chaos in the Windy City is the superior game between the two. But yeah, I picked it up. It was dirt cheap. I could either gotten it for the PlayStation or the Saturn. The PlayStation one was the cheaper of the two, and I picked this up. And yeah, I basically, by the time it showed up in the mail, I had already made my decision that I was going to talk about the other game. So there's that. All the reviews are paid actors. We're talking about this. Someone was talking about this in the chat earlier, but Spawn, the Eternal. This is a 3D beat 'em up where you're playing as Spawn, but for some reason, like your cape seems to go away a lot of the time. Probably because it's very hard to animate that in polygons, very early PlayStation graphics kind of thing. But yeah, I remember hearing about this. Oh, this is the one. Oh, this is the one-on-one fighter. Is it? Engage in blood-gushing, hand-to-hand slaughter and rip the limbs from your opponents. Execute magic, cape, and chain-based attacks over 15 enormous and deadly 3D worlds. No, this is the beat 'em up. Yeah, the bosses are the ones that they're showing on the back. Yeah, there's like all these. Yeah, I keep on confusing this with the freaking Dreamcast Spawn game. But yeah, it's clunky as all hell. It's not that great, but it's Spawn, and I love Spawn as a license. The comic book was one of the coolest things I'd ever read. It was the most different thing I've ever read at that time in like the early 90s when it first came out. So naturally, like I gravitate toward all the Spawn things when they come out, but had to get that into the collection, even though it is not that great. Yeah, I do have Stretch Panic actually for the PlayStation 2. What's up, Orlando? How's it going? It was cheap, yeah. And the last game I'm going to talk about today, I brought it up earlier. It's another Psygnosis game, and it's one that I will not play. Well, I did play it back in the day because we got it at the video store I worked at because we're, video stores that rent movies. It's usually a good idea to have like the license to video games too because, people are in a movie mood. They see a movie they like in video game form. They rent it. We make money. So I remember I convinced my boss to buy this, even though he was completely opposed to it. But we bought it anyway because the movie was super popular. And I think it rented a fair amount. But like when it died down, I brought it home and I was like, oh, God, no. But I wanted to get all the Psygnosis games. And sadly, this was a game released by Psygnosis, so I had to buy it. Y'all ready for this? Spice World. It's by Psygnosis. Had to have it. Yep, this game is terrible. It's basically like a rhythm game, but you're not... If I remember right, it's not like you're really following a rhythm. You're just trying to create like a dance routine or something like that, and it's like playing Simon Says. It is not good. It is not good at all. It does have some live action like scenes from the movie in there, right? But who gives a shit? If I remember right, there's like 3 or 4 mini games in here. Become your favorite Spice Girl and practice individual dance routines. I remember that. Create your own remixes of 5 of your favorite Spice Girl songs. Yeah, there's like a thing where you have like 9 buttons, and each button has like a chunk of the song, of one of their songs in it, and you just like jump from button to button and try to like link together something that makes sense. Interactive magazine with exclusive interviews and behind the scenes footage. I remember that. Choreograph all the Spice Girls for their special live show on your TV. Yay! It is spicy. Spice up your life. Sorry, I just threw up in my mouth on purpose this time. Yeah, it is not good. But like I said, got to have all the Psygnosis stuff, or at least I was trying to get all the Psygnosis stuff, and this sadly was one of them. But I have not put this in my PlayStation since I bought this one. The only time I've ever played this was that one that I brought home from the video store I used to work at. So that's just going to sit on my shelf and gather dust because F that game. I was never into the Spice Girls or any of that kind of stuff when I was a kid. No way. But anyway, that is the last game I'm going to talk about today. Next week, we'll have the final episode of the PlayStation collection, the final shelf in my of my PlayStation games. And that one is, there's actually not that, no, there's actually a lot of double wides in there. So there might actually be a shorter one. I thought there was going to be more. Anyway, not important. Next Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Central, part 5 of the PlayStation live streams. Be there. It should be cool. And then I'll probably decide what I'm going to do for the next video after that, what the next stream will be, what console we'll be focusing on. Probably the Nintendo 64, and that'll be essentially one video since I do not have a lot of Nintendo 64 stuff since I hate it. But yeah, tomorrow I'll also have a new short out. I'm going to shoot 1 or 2 of them right when I finish this stream. And be there for that. I'll probably release that one around noon, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock Central. Whenever I get a chance to do it at work. I usually do it while I'm sitting at my desk at work. We'll see how that goes. If not, it'll be when I come home from work, so it'll be in the evening. So keep an eye out for those, or for that. And eventually we're going to stream, I think it's in February, or mid-February, we're going to stream episode 3 of the Dungeons & Dragons campaign that I'm running with Mondane Designs and the Game Grinder. And a bunch of my friends that play my old campaign with me. And we're streaming those on Twitch. So if you're not following my Twitch channel already, go to twitch.tv/theoldassretrogamer, sign up or follow my channel so you get the notifications whenever we are going to stream the Dungeons & Dragons campaign if you're interested in that kind of thing. It's been pretty fun so far. The first 2 streams are pretty cool with 2 different groups of people, and now they've all come together, so it's going to be really interesting having like 6 people playing with me. So that'll be kind of awesome when that finally happens. So check that out if you're down with that. And I will see you next week. So have a good night, everybody. Thanks for coming by and hanging with me this evening. I really appreciate it. You're all awesome. Have a good night. Stay safe. Chris, the old ass retro gamer, out. Have a good night, everyone. I can just find. There we go. Yeah, that's it. Twitch.tv/theoldassretrogamer. Do it now. Come on. You would think so. Peter that it's over, but it's never over. It's never over. Unpredictability.